The keys were cold in my hand, but the pride on my father's face was warm enough to melt the Miami heat. "Happy 22nd, Natasha," he'd said, smiling. "This house is yours. Your safe harbor. Never sell it, no matter what your mother tells you." That was 4 years ago. I left for my master's, clutching the keys, believing I had secured my future in Miami, Florida. My father died 6 months later. Yesterday, I drove back. I was ready to start my life. But the house, the beautiful Spanish villa on Biscayne Bay, was gone. In its place, a construction site. I called my mother. Her voice was flat. "I sold it, Natasha. I sold it to pay the debt your father left us." That was the first lie. My father left no debt. He left a fortune. I spent weeks digging through his past, thinking my mother was a greedy liar. But the true horror was buried deeper. My father, the man I worshipped, wasn't just a simple businessman. He was a criminal who stole that house 30 years ago. And my mother? She didn't sell it for debt. She sold it to return the money to the victim he robbed. She became the villain to save his soul. This is the truth about the house I lost, the father I never knew, and the mother who sacrificed her honor to save both our names. This story is about a mother's ultimate choice, saving her husband's memory or saving her daughter's future. It's a double twist that defines betrayal. Before I reveal the shocking identity of the man my father robbed, tell me, would you have sold your daughter's inheritance to cover your dead husband's crime? Comment below. If you believe some family secrets are better left buried, hit the like button and subscribe right now. My father, Edward, was everything a daughter could want. Kind, successful, and deeply loving. He ran a small but thriving consulting firm in Miami, Florida. He was the stability in my life, especially after my parents divorced. My mother, Laura, was the quiet, artistic type, focused on her gallery work. We lived a comfortable, upper-middle-class life in the heart of Miami. On my 22nd birthday, as I was packing to leave for graduate school, my father gave me a gift that changed everything. He handed me a single, heavy, antique brass key. "This is the key to your future, Natasha," he'd told me, his eyes shining with pride. "I bought you the old Spanish villa on Biscayne Bay. It's yours when you graduate. It's your safe harbor. Never sell it, no matter what your mother tells you." The weight of that key was immense. It wasn't just a house, it was financial freedom in the wildly expensive Miami real estate market. My father died suddenly 6 months later. The grief was paralyzing, but the promise of that villa was a small, steady light in the darkness. I continued my studies, focused on completing my degree so I could return to Miami and claim the home my father left me. For years later, I returned to Miami, Florida. I graduated top of my class, ready to start my life. My first stop was the villa. But as the taxi pulled up to the Biscayne Bay address, the air turned icy. The beautiful Spanish villa was gone. In its place, a massive construction fence surrounded a vacant lot. The old oak trees were bulldozed. The scene screamed of sudden, brutal destruction. I rushed to my mother's apartment. She lived in a smaller, slightly faded condo near Coral Gables. When I burst in, she was calm, almost unnervingly so. "Mom, the villa. It's gone. What happened?" I demanded, holding up the useless brass key. She didn't meet my gaze. "I sold it, Natasha. I had to. Your father, he left us in debt. Massive, secret debt we knew nothing about. The sale paid off the creditors. It was the only way to save us from financial ruin in Miami." Her words were like blows. My father, the stable one? The honest one? It was the first and most easily digestible lie. I initially believed my mother was a victim of my father's secret mistakes. I was heartbroken, angry at my dead father for leaving us such a mess, and utterly devastated that my future in Miami was now reduced to nothing. I couldn't let it go. My father, Edward, was meticulous. He never left a bill unpaid. I hired a private investigator in Miami to examine his financial records. The results were immediate and shocking. My father left no debt. He left a substantial portfolio, more than enough to cover any expense. The only transfers made after his death were two massive, wire transactions, one to the law firm that handled the villa's sale, and the other to an unknown recipient. My mother had lied. She hadn't sold the house to pay debt. She sold it for her own unknown reasons. I confronted Laura. There was no debt, Mom. The money from the sale went to a mysterious account. Who did you pay? What did you do with my inheritance? Her calm facade finally cracked. Her eyes flashed with panic, but she regained control immediately. You're being hysterical, Natasha. Your father's affairs were complex. There are things you don't understand. I used the money to start my own trust fund. I did it for my security, yes. You're an adult now. I saw her as a villain, a self-serving, greedy mother who stole her daughter's inheritance. I vowed revenge. I decided to expose her greed to the rest of the family in Miami. My lawyer in Miami managed to track down the law firm that handled the villa's sale. I pressured them, threatening legal action until they broke and agreed to meet. The lawyer, a man named Mr. Stone, looked utterly burdened by guilt. Your mother, Laura, is not a villain, Natasha, he said quietly, sliding a file across the desk. She is a woman of profound honor who has been living a desperate lie to protect her late husband's name. The true, terrifying secret was revealed. My father, Edward, was not the kind man I thought he was. 30 years ago, before I was born, he and a partner, Daniel Rourke, acquired that Biscayne Bay villa using a complex legal fraud, essentially stealing it from Daniel. Daniel Rourke was later framed and spent 20 years in prison for a separate crime, which my father was peripherally involved in. My father's guilt consumed him. He knew that the villa was stolen property. On his deathbed, he didn't leave a will of inheritance. He left a confession to Laura, with a desperate final instruction: sell the house immediately, return the money to Daniel Rourke, and tell Natasha it was necessary to cover debt. Never let her know the truth about me. The house was not my inheritance. It was restitution for a crime committed in Miami decades ago. My father had passed the moral burden of his life onto my mother, asking her to sacrifice her reputation to save his soul. I looked at the documents, the forged land deeds, the testimony of a dying man, and the name of the victim, Daniel Rourke. I realized my mother hadn't been selfish. She had been acting with a brutal, protective love for my father's memory. She chose to be the greedy villain in my eyes, rather than let me know my father was a thief who built his life on a crime in Miami. The final emotional blow came when I found Laura. She wasn't at her condo. She was volunteering at a community center in a less affluent part of Miami. I walked up to her. I know, Mom. I know about the house. And Daniel Rourke. She closed her eyes, tears finally streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Natasha. I had to protect your love for him. He was dying, and he couldn't face the thought of you knowing the truth about the villa. I took the shame so you wouldn't have to carry his guilt. I looked at the simple, kind woman who had endured my anger for months. She hadn't stolen my future. She had protected my past. The money she sent to the unknown recipient was the final restitution to Daniel Rourke, who was now rebuilding his life in Miami after prison. The moral dilemma was agonizing. I lost my inheritance, but I gained the brutal truth. I understood that my father's final gift wasn't the villa key. It was the chance for his soul to find peace. And my mother's final gift was the sacrifice of her own reputation to preserve my innocence. I chose to honor them both. I used my own savings to buy a small apartment in Miami. I never regretted the loss of the villa because it was tainted money. I found Daniel Rourke. He was a quiet, reformed man. I apologized for my father's actions. Daniel Rourke, seeing my sincerity, decided to use the money from the villa's sale to establish a foundation in Miami dedicated to helping ex-convicts re-enter society. My inheritance was gone, but it founded something good. I realized the true lesson of Miami: the most valuable things in life are not the properties you own, but the truth and integrity you possess. My mother and I repaired our bond, built now on the painful, shared truth of the past. My mother, Laura, taught me that love sometimes requires choosing the role of the villain to protect someone else's honor. My father, Edward, taught me that even the deepest regret cannot escape the necessity of restitution. I lost a villa, but I gained a profound understanding of the complex, often messy, truth of family love. The beautiful skyline of Miami no longer symbolizes greed to me. It symbolizes the difficult path toward moral redemption. I am Natasha, the daughter who lost her inheritance but gained the truth. Final call to action. If you think Laura made the right choice by protecting her husband's memory, like this video. If you believe Natasha should have kept the truth buried, comment below. Subscribe for more stories of shocking family secrets.